Hey True Northers, so welcome back to another sweat cap, and this week we are going to talk about an exercise that is, as Sash likes to say, new to us. So it's not a new exercise that's never been created before, we didn't create it, but we haven't actually used it in any of our programs, and so it's new to us, new to your programs. The exercise is the staggered stance single arm rotational deadlift. And the reason we like it so much is that it actually checks a lot of boxes, everything from hypertrophy or muscle growth to strength and performance, depending on how you implement it in the program. So we're going to talk about how to do it, and then we're going to talk about how you can lean into those different qualities by making small adjustments in the way that it is done. So first off, how do you do the exercise? Well, remember really quickly how we get into our staggered stance deadlift position. We line our feet up, okay, so that our toe is behind our heel, and then we move our foot out about, let's say, hip width, maybe a little bit wider than that, okay, so that we got a nice wide stable stance. Most of our weight, we're going to say 60% is on that front leg, and we want to make sure as we go into that hinge that we really feel it on that hip and hamstring, okay? That we're not simply squatting down, and if I do that, I feel it more in my quad, okay? So finding that. We don't want to lock our knee out because that becomes a stiff leg version, and that puts more of the emphasis on the hamstrings, and we really do want to hit the hips with this one, okay? So the soft knees so that we're hitting the hip. When we're doing it on a regular single arm staggered stance deadlift, we just come straight down and come back up. Now, when we do it rotationally, we are going to, with all the same setup, we're just gonna let ourselves turn through the hip so that that foot lines up, or sorry, so that the hand lines up with the foot, and then we come up. Okay, so switch it to the other side, line myself up, move it out to the side, nice stable stance, rotate, down, fist goes towards the foot, so I'm getting rotation and extra stretch, and then come back up. Hips back, soft knee so that we are driving through the hip and not just the hamstring, and coming back up. Okay, so that's the how of doing it. How can we adjust it so that it leans into, like I said, hypertrophy muscle building or strength and performance? If you want to focus more on the first thing, the building of the muscle, then why this is such a great exercise is you want, when you are building the muscle, you want the greatest amount of weight or strength, load at its biggest stretch. Okay, so that means on a deadlift, the biggest stretch on that hip is at the bottom, okay, because that hip's opened up, so you've got the greatest stretch there. So you want to make sure that the weight that the load is there as you come up. By doing it as rotation, as long as you're not actually twisting through the spine and you're rotating and you're sitting back into that hip even more, you get a little bit more of a stretch. So you get a greater stretch with that load as you go down. Now, we want to do a higher volume, more reps when we're doing it for hypertrophy muscle building, and so you want to adjust the weight appropriately. When you're doing this one, you want to use your 10 to 15 rep, or sorry, 10 to say, or let's say 12 to 18 rep weight, and you want to get within 1 rep of that. Okay, so only leaving 1 rep in reserve. So your reps are going to be anywhere from say 10 or 11 up to 15, 16. Okay, per side. That's if we want to, and the weight has to be appropriate for that, okay? You can't have a failure of form or technique when you're hitting the 7th or 8th rep, if you're going up to 15, 16. If we want to make it more of a strength and performance exercise, and first off, I suppose we should talk about why it was such a great strength and performance exercise, is that move is learning how to load that hip up like that coiled spring, okay? And if you think about like a golf swing, right? When you come back, I'm loading that hip, and as I come through, it's creating that drive and that almost rotational explosive hip extension. So we're training that movement. Now, I know not everyone who's watching this is a golfer, so you got to think it's applicable in a lot of the rotational sports, okay? Any sort of sport. And either way, even if you're not an athlete and you're not playing any of those sports, there's still value in being able to load with some power in a variety of the planes of movement, okay? So this is good for everybody, let's put it that way. If you're using it from a strength and performance, if you're doing it for the strength and performance qualities, then you want to be working more in the rep range of, let's say, 6 to 8, meaning choosing your 7 to 9 rep exercise. Now, this is not necessarily a beginner exercise, a beginner movement, simply because you are going into the hinge and there's some rotation in it. So you really have to have that hinge, and specifically in that staggered stance position, you have to have that hinge down pat before you start adding in, the higher volumes, the heavier weights, and a little bit of that rotation coming through, okay? So make sure that you've got that cleared up before you start trying to layer on the complexity with things like this, okay? Hope that sounds good. I hope you're excited to try it out. Like we always say, you can leave some exercises in the comments if there's something that you would like us to go over a little bit more closely, or if you have questions about this one, again, leave it in the comments. Talk to us when you see us. Train smart, train hard, keep fit, and have fun.